Thelvora had never seen anything like the human ship. The Indomitable hung in space like a predator, all sharp angles and weapon ports. When she boarded it with Scholar Shinthal and Fleet Coordinator Peshk, the differences became even more obvious. The gravity was crushing. Her legs trembled under the extra weight. Shinthal had to use mechanical supports just to move. Only Peshk seemed unaffected, his aquatic species having evolved in deep ocean pressures. But the gravity was the least shocking thing. Everywhere she looked, Thelvora saw weapons. Humans carried sidearms openly. Training rooms showed soldiers practicing hand-to-hand combat. The walls displayed something the translation device called kill counts from previous engagements. One human had scars across his face and wore them like medals. This way, Dr. Jiwan guided them through the corridors. The xenobiologist seemed kind enough, but even she carried a weapon on her hip. Admiral Daiho was waiting in the command center. The command center was organized chaos. Humans moved with purpose, calling out coordinates and tactical data. Holographic displays showed the Telmar system where Vorgath forces were harvesting a Union colony world. Millions of refugees crowded orbital stations protected only by 3 damaged Union ships. Admiral Daiho turned as they entered. He was tall for a human, gray hair cut short, eyes that seemed to see through everything. He nodded respectfully. Ambassador Thelvora, thank you for meeting us. I wish it was under better circumstances. As do I, Thelvora replied. Her translator struggled with emotional nuances, but she tried to convey gratitude. Your willingness to help is unexpected and appreciated. People are dying, Daiho said simply. That's all the reason we need. Fleet Coordinator Peshk, I understand you have tactical data on Vorgath capabilities. Peshk moved to the display, his tentacles working the controls. His color shifted to confident blue. The Vorgath use biomechanical ships. They regenerate damage. They adapt to energy weapons after exposure. They fight in swarm formations, overwhelming targets with numbers. Our defensive strategy focuses on protecting civilians while evacuating them to safer systems. Captain Minji stepped forward. Thelvora noticed immediately that this human female moved differently. Precise, controlled, dangerous. With respect, Coordinator, that's not a strategy. That's retreat. You're giving them ground and hoping they stop. They won't. Peshk's color darkened to offended purple. We are protecting innocent lives. What would you suggest? Aggressive action that puts civilians at risk? No. Minji brought up her own tactical display. Aggressive action that eliminates the threat. The Vorgath are harvesting the colony. That means they're stationary, vulnerable. We hit their harvester clusters with everything we have, fast, hard, no warning. Destroy their ability to consume resources and they'll retreat to regroup. That's suicide, Peshk objected. They outnumber us 5-1 at Telmar. Only if we fight their way, Minji's expression was cold. You're thinking like prey. We're predators. We don't run from threats. We eliminate them. Thelvora felt her feathers flatten. The casual way Captain Minji discussed violence was disturbing. But she couldn't deny the logic. The Union had been retreating for months. Maybe it was time to push back. Show me your plan, Admiral Daiho said. For the next hour, Captain Minji outlined her strategy. Thelvora watched in growing horror and fascination as the human explained concepts she'd never considered. Sacrificial decoys, rotating weapon types to prevent adaptation, using debris fields as cover, deliberately venting atmosphere to create emergency thrust. It was brutal, efficient, and it just might work. Approved, Daiho said. All ships prepare for combat operations. We engage in 6 hours. The human fleet entered the Telmar system like a storm. 300 warships moving in perfect coordination. Thelvora watched from the Indomitable's observation deck, unable to look away. The Vorgath bioships detected them immediately. Thousands of organic vessels, each one a nightmare of flesh and metal. They moved to intercept, confident in their numbers. All ships weapons free, Captain Minji's voice was steady. Show them what Earth builds. The human fleet opened fire. Thelvora had seen Union weapons. Energy beams that heated targets, elegant, precise, clean. Human weapons were none of those things. Kinetic rounds traveling at incredible speed simply punched through bioship armor. Fusion torpedoes detonated in miniature suns. Railgun slugs tore through multiple targets. And when the Vorgath tried to adapt to the kinetic weapons, the humans switched to lasers. Then plasma. Then back to kinetics. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. They're adapting to our energy weapons, someone reported. Switch to kinetics, Minji ordered. Targeting solutions on the harvester clusters. Fire at will. Thelvora watched as the human strategy unfolded. They weren't trying to win by overwhelming force. They were fighting smart. When the Vorgath surrounded a group of human ships, those ships deliberately broke formation, drawing the bioships into a kill zone where other human vessels waited. Engineer Taeyang's voice came through the comms, cheerful despite the battle. Captain, I've modified our mining charges. The Vorgath can't detect them because their sensors read them as space debris. Permission to deploy? Granted, Minji replied. All ships watch for debris field detonations. Moments later, what appeared to be harmless asteroids drifted into Vorgath formations. When the bioships ignored them, the charges detonated. Dozens of Vorgath vessels shattered. That's cheating, Scholar Shinthal chittered with what sounded like approval. Wonderful. But the real shock came when a human destroyer took critical damage. Instead of retreating, it accelerated toward the Vorgath harvester cluster. Thelvora watched in horror as she realized what was happening. They're ramming, she whispered. They're sacrificing themselves. The destroyer's crew had evacuated, but the ship's AI guided it into the harvester at full speed. The explosion took out 3 Vorgath harvesters and damaged dozens of bioships. All crew from Destroyer 7 accounted for, someone reported. They're being picked up by Frigate 12. Thelvora stared. They had planned for that. Turned a destroyed ship into a weapon. Used sacrifice as strategy. It should have been horrifying. Instead, she found herself thinking it was brilliant. While the fleet fought in orbit, Lieutenant Hyun led his Marines to the planet's surface. A refugee camp of 20,000 aliens was trapped, surrounded by Vorgath ground forces. The Union had written them off as lost. Drop pods away, Hyun reported calmly. Beginning insertion. Thelvora watched the tactical display as 50 drop pods screamed through the atmosphere. Vorgath anti-air fire destroyed 12 pods. 38 reached the surface. 500 Marines against thousands of Vorgath creatures. All squads defensive perimeter around the civilians, Hyun ordered. Remember your training. Suppressing fire, rotating reloads, watch your corners. The helmet cameras showed the battle in brutal detail. Vorgath bioforms were massive, armored with multiple limbs ending in blades and guns. They should have overwhelmed the Marines immediately. But the humans fought with a coordination that seemed impossible. They covered each other, called out targets, used explosives to collapse buildings on advancing Vorgath. When one Marine's weapon jammed, another stepped into his firing line without missing a beat. Hyun was everywhere, his voice steady. Second squad, fall back to the shuttle landing zone. Fourth squad, covering fire. Third squad, get those civilians moving. A massive Vorgath horror burst through the Marine line. It was 6 meters tall, covered in armor plating with blades that had killed dozens of Union soldiers. It headed straight for the huddled refugees. Lieutenant Hyun stepped in front of it. Alone. Everyone else, keep moving, he said. Then he activated his plasma knife and charged. Thelvora couldn't breathe as she watched. The human was tiny compared to the Vorgath horror, but Hyun moved like water, dodging strikes, slashing at weak points. The creature's blade caught him across the shoulder. Hyun didn't even slow down. He rolled under another strike, planted an explosive charge, and dove clear. The explosion staggered the Vorgath. Hyun emptied his weapon into the wound. Then when the gun ran dry, he drew a sidearm. When that ran empty, he pulled out a combat knife. Civilians are loaded, someone reported. Lieutenant, get to the shuttle. Hyun finished the Vorgath with a final strike to what passed for its brain, then limped to the shuttle. Blood stained his armor. He refused medical attention until all civilians were counted. 4,000 rescued, he reported. 12 Marines KIA, requesting pickup for bodies. We don't leave anyone behind. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vorgath retreated. Their harvester clusters were destroyed. Their bioships fled to deep space. Telmar was saved. The human fleet had lost 3 destroyers and 2 frigates. 23 humans killed. 147 wounded. Thelvora visited the Indomitable's medical bay and found Captain Minji there, speaking with every injured crew member personally. You did well, Minji told a young officer who had lost an arm. You held your position when it mattered. That's what counts, the officer smiled weakly. Did we win, Captain? We saved 4 million civilians, Minji replied. That's a win in my book. Thelvora approached after Minji finished her rounds. Your people fight with such violence, she said. I thought Deathworlders would be mindless in battle. But you're not. Every action is calculated. Every sacrifice is 3 weeks after Telmar. Tensions ran high aboard Bastion 7. The massive Union Fortress station now served as humanity's temporary headquarters, and not everyone was happy about it. Admiral Deho stood before the Galactic Council, very aware that half the room wanted him gone. High Counselor Mensk had called an emergency session. The holographic display behind him showed footage from Telmar. Human Marines using flamethrowers against Vorgath bioforms, a ship deliberately ramming enemies, soldiers fighting in ways the Union found disturbing. This is unacceptable, Council Member Resh declared, his crystalline body flashing angry reds. These humans are as violent as the Vorgath. They burn, they destroy. They sacrifice their own without hesitation. We asked for help, not monsters. Monsters? Ambassador Thelvora stood, her feathers bristling. Those monsters saved 4 million civilians at Telmar. Those monsters lost 23 of their own doing it. Where were we? Our fleet ran. Our soldiers couldn't fight. The humans did what we could not. At what cost to our principles? Another council member asked. We have maintained peace for 10,000 years through diplomacy and compassion, not violence. Admiral Deho had been silent through the debate. Now he stepped forward. You're right, he said quietly. The chamber fell silent. We are violent. Our methods are harsh. Earth made us that way. Every day on our planet something tried to kill us. Disease, weather, predators, other humans. We learned to fight or die. He pulled up a different image. The memorial wall from the Indomitable. But we also learned something else. We learned that strength without purpose is just cruelty. We fight to protect, to preserve, to save. He looked directly at Council Member Resh. 47 humans have died defending your people. Every one of them volunteered. Every one of them knew they might not come home. They came anyway. Deho's voice remained calm, but his eyes were hard. You asked for our help. We came, we bled, and now you debate whether we're too violent? Fine, we can leave. But the Vorgath won't stop. They'll keep coming. And when they reach your core worlds, when trillions die, you'll have your principles. Cold comfort for the dead. Silence. Then Fleet Coordinator Peshk stood. The humans taught me something. His tentacles shifted to determined blue. Honor is not philosophy. It's action. They came when we called. They fought when we couldn't. I will not dishonor that sacrifice by sending them away. The vote was close, but humanity stayed. Barely. Captain Minji tried to ignore the political drama. She had more immediate problems. The Union wanted to learn human tactics, but their officers struggled with basic concepts. You want us to do what? Peshk stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Minji had just explained a ramming maneuver. It's simple, Minji said. If a ship is critically damaged and can't escape, use it as a weapon. Evacuate the crew, then ram the enemy at maximum speed. AI handles the final approach. That's not simple. Peshk's color shifted through confused patterns. That's suicide. Ships are precious. Centuries of construction. You treat them as disposable. Not disposable, Minji corrected. Expendable. There's a difference. Ships are tools. Important tools, yes. But tools nonetheless. People matter more than tools. She pulled up another scenario. What would you do here? Your ship is disabled. Shields down. Engines failing. Enemy closing in. Signal for rescue, Peshk replied immediately. Attempt repairs. If impossible, abandon ship. And let the enemy capture your technology, your data, information about fleet positions. Minji shook her head. Humans scuttle damaged ships. If we can't save it, we destroy it. Deny the enemy any advantage. Peshk was quiet for a long moment. Your species thinks 3 moves ahead. Even in defeat, you're planning victory. We learned from 1,000,000 years of evolution, Minji said, and another 10,000 years of killing each other. We're good at war because we've had a lot of practice. Too much practice. The training sessions continued. Slowly, painfully, Union officers began to understand. War wasn't chaos. It was discipline, structure, mathematics, the willingness to sacrifice for advantage. Scholar Shinthal burst into Dr. Jiwan's lab 3 days later, his multiple legs clicking excitedly on the deck. I found something. In the Vorgath communication intercepts. You need to see this. Jiwan looked up from her research. She'd been studying Vorgath biology, trying to find weaknesses. What is it? Shinthal projected data into the air. The Vorgath are coordinating a massive push toward the core worlds, 14 breeding colonies, millions of bioships. They plan to harvest trillions of Union citizens. He chittered nervously. But that's not the worst part. Look at these intercepts. Jiwan read the translated data and felt her blood go cold. They're targeting humans. Specifically, they want to capture us, study us, consume our genetics. They want to become you, Shinthal confirmed. Imagine Vorgath with human intelligence, human adaptability, human aggression. They would be unstoppable. Jiwan immediately contacted Admiral Deho. Within an hour, the senior staff gathered in the briefing room. The mood was grim. This changes everything, Deho said. We're not just fighting to save the Union anymore. We're fighting to ensure the Vorgath never get human DNA. If they create hybrid warriors, the galaxy is finished. We need to hit them first, Captain Minji suggested. Deep strike into Vorgath territory. Find their breeding facilities and destroy them. That's insane, someone objected. We'd be outnumbered 100 to 1. Then we're even, Minji replied with a cold smile. The sabotage happened 2 days later. Engineer Taeyang was running maintenance checks on the Indomitable's fusion reactor when he noticed something wrong. Very wrong. Captain, we have a problem, he reported. Someone tampered with the reactor's cooling system. It's subtle. Would have looked like equipment failure, but it would cause a catastrophic meltdown during high-stress operations. Like combat, security investigations revealed the truth. A small group of Union extremists called the Purists had infiltrated Bastion 7. They believed humanity was corrupting the Union's peaceful nature. Better to die pure than survive through violence. Captain Minji wanted to arrest them immediately. Admiral Daiho had a different idea. He invited the Purist leaders to the Indomitable personally. They came expecting confrontation. Instead, Daiho took them to the memorial wall. Read the names, he said quietly. Every human here died defending Union worlds. Most of them had families, dreams, futures. They gave all that up for people they'd never met. One Purist leader, a frail elderly alien, studied the wall. Why would they sacrifice so much for us? Because we know what it's like to be helpless, Daiho replied. Earth nearly killed us. Climate change, war, disease. We came close to extinction multiple times. We survived because we learned to help each other. Now we extend that to you. He turned to face them directly. You think we're monsters? Maybe we are. Our history is soaked in blood. But we're monsters who choose to protect instead of destroy. What does that make us? Most of the Purists left quietly, their convictions shaken. A few refused to abandon their beliefs. Union security detained them, but the movement lost momentum after that day. The Vorgath probe attack came without warning. Small, fast ships penetrated Bastion 7's defenses. They weren't here to destroy. They were here to study, to adapt, to capture. Alarms blared through the station. Lieutenant Hyun's Marines responded immediately. But these Vorgath were different, smarter. They used tactics that mimicked human strategies. Flanking maneuvers, suppressing fire. Coordinated assaults, they're learning from us, Hyun reported, his voice strained. Deck 7 is overrun. Deck 9 holding. We're fighting our own tactics. The battle raged through the station's corridors. Close quarters, brutal, personal. Hyun's PTSD threatened to overwhelm him. Every corner reminded him of Telmar. Every fallen Marine looked like someone he'd failed to save. But his sergeant was there, the grizzled veteran who'd talked him through the breakdown. Stay with me, Lieutenant. These kids need you. I need you. Focus on the mission. Hyun pushed through the fear. All squads fall back to defensive positions. Seal the bulkheads. Make them fight for every meter. In the command center, a Vorgath infiltrator reached Admiral Deho. It moved faster than anything that size should move. Deho reached for his sidearm, knowing he'd be too slow. Ambassador Thelvora moved faster. Her species had sharp talons on their wings, remnants from a distant evolutionary past. She'd never used them as weapons. Until now, she slashed the Vorgath across what passed for its throat. Alien blood sprayed across the deck. The creature fell, dead. Thelvora stared at her talons. Blood dripped from them. Her feathers trembled. I killed it, she whispered. I took a life. Captain Minji appeared beside her. You saved one. The Admiral. That's what matters. She put a hand on Thelvora's shoulder. Welcome to the club. First kill never gets easier, but it does get necessary. The Vorgath probe force was destroyed, but the damage was done. They'd collected samples. Genetic material. Data. Broodlord Kaharak now had what it needed to create human Vorgath hybrids. Dr. Jiwan analyzed the attack patterns and came to a terrifying conclusion. They're evolving faster than we can adapt. The Vorgath learn from every engagement. If they reach the core worlds, they'll harvest trillions and become unstoppable. The emergency alarm screamed through the council chamber as another orbital defense platform exploded. Ambassador Thelvora gripped the edge of her crystalline podium with her talons, watching the holographic display show her world dying. Red dots swarmed across the screen like a plague, each one a Vorgath bioship consuming everything in its path. How long until they reach the surface? High Counselor Minsk's voice crackled through the speakers. The ancient crystalline being's usual calm had shattered like glass. 3 hours, replied Fleet Coordinator Peshk. His tentacles changed color rapidly, shifting from blue to dark purple. Thelvora had studied his species long enough to know what that meant. Fear. Pure, undeniable fear. Our defensive fleet is gone. Every ship we sent was destroyed or consumed. Thelvora looked at the other council members. Species from 100 worlds all staring at the display with the same expression. They had no idea what to do. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Union had known peace. Their weapons were ceremonial. Their soldiers were peacekeepers who had never seen real combat. And now the ancient enemy had returned, the Vorgath swarm, the nightmare from old legends. Biomechanical horrors that consumed entire civilizations and disappeared into hibernation. No one believed they were real anymore. No one had prepared. We must evacuate, someone said. Thelvora couldn't tell who. The chamber had descended into chaos. Council members shouted over each other, their translation devices creating a wall of noise. Evacuate where? Minsk's voice cut through the noise like a blade. They came from the galactic core. They're spreading in all directions. 14 colony worlds have already fallen. Soon they'll reach the core worlds. Trillions will die. Thelvora felt her feathers flatten against her body, an involuntary response to stress. She had been a diplomat her entire life, trained to find peaceful solutions. But peace required two sides willing to negotiate. The Vorgath didn't negotiate. They consumed. They adapted. They spread. There is one option. Scholar Shinthal's chittering voice broke through her thoughts. The small insectoid historian scuttled to the center of the chamber, his multiple eyes gleaming. 6 months ago, I discovered a new species. Class 12 Deathworld inhabitants. Several council members made sounds of disgust. Class 12 Deathworlds were hell planets. High gravity, violent weather, toxic atmospheres. No civilized species evolved on such worlds. Only monsters. You cannot be serious, Peshk said. Deathworld species are dangerous, aggressive. They would be worse than the Vorgath. Perhaps. Shinthal clicked his mandibles together. But they survived their planet. They built weapons. They reached space. They understand violence in ways we have forgotten. He projected an image into the chamber, a blue and green world, beautiful from orbit. They call it Earth, and they call themselves humans. Thelvora studied the planet. It looked peaceful. Then Shinthal showed more data. Temperature swings that would kill most Union species. Gravity 30% higher than standard. An atmosphere so rich in oxygen it was essentially poison to most life forms. Massive storms that could swallow entire cities. Tectonic plates that shifted and cracked, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. This planet tried to kill its inhabitants every single day, Shinthal continued. And they not only survived, they thrived. They are persistence predators with binocular vision designed for hunting. They have pack hunting instincts. And most interesting, they have nuclear weapons and a space fleet. We are not contacting Deathworlders, Minsk said firmly. The cure would be worse than the disease. Another explosion rocked the chamber. Through the windows, Thelvora watched fire bloom in the sky as another defense station died. She thought of her children, safe in the underground shelters, for now. She thought of billions of civilians who trusted the council to protect them. We are dying, she said quietly. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. Right now, as we debate, our people are dying. We have no weapons, no soldiers, no hope. If these humans can help, we must ask, what is the worst that could happen? They say no and we die anyway. Silence fell across the chamber. Finally, Minsk's crystalline form seemed to dim. Send the message, he said. May the ancestors forgive us. Thousands of light years away, Admiral Deho stood in the command center of Sentinel-7, Earth's orbital defense platform. He was reviewing supply reports when the communications officer called out, Sir, we're receiving a transmission on the Deep Space Channel. Unknown origin. Unknown language. Deho felt his pulse quicken. In his 52 years, humanity had never received a message from space. They had searched. They had sent signals. But the universe had remained silent. Until now. Wake up, Dr. Jiwon, he ordered. Get her up here now. And someone find Captain Minji. 20 minutes later, Earth's chief xenobiologist arrived, still pulling on her uniform. Dr. Jiwon had spent her entire career preparing for first contact. She had learned 17 theoretical alien language structures. She had written papers on communication protocols. But standing in front of the actual alien transmission, her hands shook. Play it again, she said. The sounds filled the command center. Melodic tones mixed with harsh clicks and something that sounded like crystal chimes. Jiwon listened 3 times, then began typing on her terminal. Mathematical patterns emerged. Universal constants. The aliens were smart. They had encoded basic mathematics and physics into their message to create a translation matrix. It's a distress call, she said finally. The command center fell silent. They're under attack. They're saying millions are dying. They need help. Her screen filled with images decoded from the signal. Alien cities burning, strange ships being torn apart, creatures fleeing in panic. Captain Minji arrived and stood next to Admiral Deho. She was younger than him by 14 years, but had already earned a reputation as the fleet's most brilliant tactical mind. She studied the images with cold efficiency. Those attacking ships, she said, biomechanical design, self-repairing systems, swarm tactics. Admiral, this isn't just raiders. This is an extinction event. Deho watched one image, an alien child, bird-like features running from something massive and horrible. The image froze as the child looked back, terror clear in those alien eyes. He thought of his nephew back on Earth. Same age, same fear and different packaging. How far away are they? He asked. Based on the signal delay, about 400 light years, the communications officer replied. With our FTL drives, we could reach them in 2 weeks. Admiral, Minji said quietly, this isn't our fight. We don't know these aliens. We don't know what we're getting into. The fleet is designed to defend Earth, not fight alien wars. Deho knew she was right. The logical choice was to stay home. Protect their own. But he kept seeing that child's face. He remembered why he joined the military. Not to watch people die. To stop it. Contact the UN Security Council, he said. Tell them we have first contact and they're dying. Prep the fleet. Full mobilization. Every ship we have. Sir, that's 300 warships, Minji protested. The entire United Earth fleet. You're committing everything based on one distress call? Deho looked at her steadily. Captain, humanity spent thousands of years fighting itself. We nearly destroyed our own planet. We built weapons that could end all life on Earth, and you know what we learned? That we're stronger together. That protecting the weak isn't weakness, it's what makes us human. He gestured at the screen. Those are people. Different biology, but people. And people don't abandon each other. Minji stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. I'll start the mobilization. The Indomitable will be ready in 36 hours. Across the solar system, humanity's military might came alive. Shipyards orbiting Earth, Mars, Luna, and the Jovian moons lit up with activity. 300 warships built from lessons learned in Earth's brutal history. Kinetic weapons that could punch through armor at relativistic speeds. Fusion torpedoes, railguns, missile systems, fighter craft, Marines trained in zero-gravity combat. Everything humanity had learned from fighting itself among the stars. 2 weeks later, the human fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of Union space. Thelvora's diplomatic vessel detected them and nearly crashed from the shock. Sensors showed 300 military vessels bristling with weapons. The fleet's energy signatures were all wrong. Too hot, too aggressive, too predatory. She opened a communication channel, preparing her formal diplomatic greeting. Before she could speak, a human voice responded. Deep, calm, dangerous. This is Admiral Deho of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call. Send us coordinates of all hostile forces. We're about to teach the galaxy what apex predators look like. Thelvora's feathers stood on end. Scholar Shinthal had been right about one thing. The Deathworlders had come. Whether they were salvation or damnation remained to be seen. One impossible mission, one final stand. And the Vorgath's primary breeding. The human fleet limped through Vorgath space like wounded animals. 27 ships destroyed. 4,000 personnel dead. The Indomitable barely functioned, its fusion reactor running at 40% capacity, hull breached in 16 sections. Captain Minji walked through corridors filled with wounded. Every face she passed was another weight on her conscience. She'd led them into hell. Some hadn't made it back. She tried to maintain morale while privately wondering if she'd led her people to annihilation. "Captain," a young ensign called out from a medical bed. His right leg was gone below the knee. "Did we win?" Minji knelt beside him. "Lieutenant Hyun destroyed the prime nest. We crippled their breeding capability." "That's a win. Good." The ensign smiled weakly. "Then it was worth it." Minji squeezed his hand and moved on. But inside doubt gnawed at her. They'd hurt the Vorgath. But at what cost? And would it be enough? Engineer Taeyang worked without sleep, performing miracles just to keep life support running. He'd lost weight. His hands trembled from exhaustion. But he never stopped. When someone suggested he rest, he just laughed. "Sleep is for people who aren't keeping 300 souls alive with duct tape and prayer." He joked, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Admiral Daeho broadcast a message to the fleet. "Lieutenant Hyun died so the Vorgath can't make more monsters. Every ship that makes it home carries his memory. We honor him by surviving. Keep pushing. We're not done yet." They were still deep in enemy territory with a long way to safety. And the Vorgath were adapting. Broodlord Kaerek hadn't been idle. Using genetic material extracted from captured humans, the Vorgath created new bioweapons. Fast-strike vessels that could outmaneuver human ships. Bioforms resistant to kinetic weapons. Creatures designed specifically to counter human tactics. Worst of all, infiltrator units. Vorgath organisms that could mimic human appearance using harvested DNA. The fleet discovered this horror when a rescue team brought back survivors from a damaged destroyer. Within hours, the survivors attacked from within. The battle was brutal. Fighting enemies that looked like friends. Marines forced to shoot what appeared to be fellow soldiers. Trust shattered under the weight of paranoia. Dr. Jiwon worked frantically to develop a detection method. She found one. A rapid genetic scanner that could identify Vorgath infiltrators. But the damage was done. Every human now looked at each other with suspicion. "They're corrupting our greatest strength," Captain Minji said quietly to Admiral Daeho. "Trust. Unity. Without that, we're just individuals fighting alone." "Then we rebuild it," Daeho replied. "One genetic test at a time. One conversation at a time. The Vorgath can copy our DNA, but they can't copy what makes us human." Back in Union space, the Galactic Council faced its own crisis. Some members wanted to abandon the human fleet. Let the Deathworlders and the Swarm destroy each other. Focus on saving Union worlds. The humans walked into a trap, one council member argued. "That's not our fault. We should use this time to fortify our defenses. They walked into that trap for us." High Counselor Mensk's crystalline form flashed angry reds. "While we debated, they acted. While we hesitated, they sacrificed." Ambassador Thelvora stood before the council. She'd changed since killing the Vorgath infiltrator. Her feathers had patterns that marked her as someone who had taken a life. In her culture, it was both a shame and an honor. "I have walked among humans," she said. "I have seen them bleed. I have seen them die. I have killed beside them." She showed her talons, still faintly stained. "They are violent, aggressive, dangerous, and they came when we called for help. Now some of you want to abandon them?" She pulled up footage. Lieutenant Hyun's final stand. Marines dying to protect Union refugees. The Indomitable burning in space but still fighting. These humans came 400 light years to save people they'd never met. They lost thousands doing it. And we're going to leave them to die? The council chamber fell silent. Fleet Coordinator Peshk stood, his color shifting to determined blue. "The humans taught me that honor isn't philosophy. It's action. I'm taking every ship I can muster to bring them home. Who's with me?" Slowly, reluctantly, the Union mobilized. It wasn't a large force. The Union's military capability was still rebuilding. But every species that humanity had saved sent ships. Every world that owed its survival to human sacrifice contributed. It was the first true military offensive the Union had launched in 10,000 years. Not to conquer, to rescue. The human fleet fought a running battle through Vorgath space. Every jump to FTL required them to pause and recharge, making them vulnerable. During one such pause, the Vorgath launched their largest assault yet. Captain Minji's voice cut through the chaos. "All ships form on the Indomitable. Mutual support formation. Nothing gets through. What followed was the most brutal sustained combat of the war. Ships welded together by debris continued fighting as single units. Crews transferred between vessels through hull breaches to replace casualties. When ammunition ran low, they used debris as improvised projectiles. Engineer Tae Yang routed power from life support to weapons. The crew donned emergency suits. "We won't need life support if we're dead," he said. His jokes were getting darker. No one laughed anymore, but they kept fighting. The Indomitable, barely functional, became the rallying point. Other ships clustered around it like children around a parent. When Vorgath forces tried to break through, they met coordinated human resistance, every ship protecting every other ship. Just as ammunition reached critical levels, new contacts appeared on sensors. Union reinforcements. Fleet Coordinator Peshk led a combined armada. Every species, every ship that could fly, coming to repay the debt. Peshk's vessel pulled alongside the crippled Indomitable. Over comms, his voice was warm. "Returning the favor, Captain. Now let's get you home." The combined fleet began the final push toward Union space. The Vorgath pursued, but fresh Union ships and desperate human tactics held them back. It was the first time the galaxy had seen true cooperation between the Union's peaceful species and humanity's warrior culture. During a brief respite, Dr. Jiwon analyzed data from the destroyed Prime Nest. What she found made her blood run cold. She called an emergency meeting with Admiral Daeho and Captain Minji. "The Prime Nest wasn't the only one," she said. "The Vorgath have 13 more breeding facilities scattered across dark space. We destroyed one hive in a vast swarm." Silence. Then Minji laughed. It was a bitter, exhausted sound. "Of course. We nearly died destroying one, and there are 13 more. We hurt them," Daeho said, "but we didn't kill them." "And now they know we're the real threat." Scholar Shinthal added another observation. "The Vorgath have consumed hundreds of species. They've never encountered one that fought back this effectively, which means they'll do what any apex predator does when challenged." Ambassador Thelvora finished the thought. "They'll come for Earth." As the combined fleet neared Union space, Broodlord Kyrek made one final attempt. A massive Vorgath bio-dreadnought emerged from a dimensional rift, 10 times larger than any previous vessel. It targeted the Indomitable directly. "All ships continue to safety," Captain Minji ordered. "The Indomitable will engage." "Captain, you can't face that alone," Peshk protested. "Someone has to buy time," Minji replied. "Get those ships home, Coordinator." "That's an order." Engineer Taeyang appeared on the bridge. "Captain, I have a plan." "Terrible plan. Insane plan. But a plan." "Let's hear it," Minji said. "We overload the fusion reactor. Ram the dreadnought at full speed. Detonate inside its core. Should take it down." He paused. "It's suicide," Minji considered. It was suicide. But it would work. And it would save the fleet. She gave the order. "All non-essential crew evacuate to escape pods. Essential crew prepare for ramming speed." Most of the crew refused to leave. "We're with you, Captain," the helmsman said. To the end. The Indomitable charged the Vorgath dreadnought. Weapons blazing. Reactor overloading. Every system pushed beyond limits. It was beautiful. It was terrible. It was human. At the last moment, Admiral Daeho intervened. The rest of the fleet returned, providing covering fire. "You don't get to be a hero alone, Captain." His voice crackled through the comms. The combined firepower gave Minji a chance. She still rammed the dreadnought, but escape pods launched at the final second. The explosion vaporized the Vorgath flagship. The Indomitable, the ship that had carried humanity through this war, died in a blaze of light. Captain Minji floated in an escape pod, watching her ship disintegrate. Her home, her command, her identity. Gone. "You're insane, Captain," Admiral Daeho said over the comms. She laughed weakly. "I learned from the best, sir." The battered fleet limped into Union space. Of 300 human warships, only 94 remained combat effective. 8,000 humans killed. But they'd accomplished the impossible. They'd struck the Vorgath in their heartland and survived. The galaxy celebrated humanity as saviors. Parades were planned. Medals were commissioned. But the senior staff knew better. They gathered in a secure room on Bastion 7. "We hurt them," Admiral Daeho said, "but we didn't kill them. 13 more nests out there, and now they know we're the real threat. This war isn't over. It's just beginning." Scholar Shinthal added his observation. The Vorgath have consumed hundreds of species. They've never... The human fleet entered Vorgath territory like ghosts. 300 warships running dark, minimum emissions, sliding through the void between stars. They were hunting the most dangerous prey in the galaxy. Admiral Deho split the fleet into 3 groups. Captain Minji commanded the main assault force with 80 ships. Commander June, a careful strategist who preferred defensive tactics, protected the supply lines with 100 vessels. The remaining ships formed scout groups, probing ahead for threats. Fleet Coordinator Peshk volunteered his rebuilt Union ships to join Minji's group. It was a powerful symbol, the Union learning to fight alongside humanity. Before departure, Admiral Deho addressed the entire fleet. "We're entering hell." His voice carried across every ship. "Some of us won't come back, but we go so billions don't have to. The Vorgath think they've seen everything. They're wrong. They've never faced humans who have nothing left to lose. Show them what that means." The fleet jumped to FTL. Destination, the heart of Vorgath space. 3 days into enemy territory, they found the first graveyard, an entire star system reduced to debris, billions of ships destroyed in an ancient battle. Scholar Shinthal identified the remains. These were the Talvathi, he chittered nervously, a warrior species. The Union thought they vanished naturally 10,000 years ago, but they fought the Vorgath, and lost. Dr. Jiwan led a research team to investigate the ruins. They found data cores preserved in the vacuum. The Talvathi's final message chilled her to the bone. "We were warriors once, like you. We had weapons, tactics, pride. It wasn't enough. The swarm adapts. They learn. They grow stronger with each battle. By the time we understood what we faced, it was too late. To whoever finds this, adapt faster than they can evolve, or perish like us." The message ended with coordinates. The location of the Vorgath prime nest. Captain Minji studied the coordinates carefully. "It's too convenient. This feels like bait." "Probably is," Admiral Deho agreed. "But bait only works if you take it. And we're not like the Talvathi. We don't fight fair. We fight to win." Approaching the coordinates, the fleet encountered Vorgath biomines, living organisms that disguised themselves as asteroids and detonated when ships passed. They'd already destroyed 2 scout vessels. Engineer Taeyang worked through the night to find a solution. He appeared on the command deck with dark circles under his eyes but a triumphant smile. "I can broadcast false engine signatures," he explained. "Make the biomines think we're everywhere. They'll detonate on phantom targets and clear the field." "How confident are you?" Captain Minji asked. 70%, Taeyang admitted. "But that's better odds than trying to dodge them all." "Do it," Minji ordered. Taeyang's trick worked. Mostly. Biomines detonated throughout the field, clearing a path. But 3 destroyers still took damage. The Indomitable survived with its starboard weapon array destroyed. Taeyang performed repairs while the ship was under constant harassment from Vorgath patrol drones. He worked outside the hull in an EV suit, welding under fire. Over the comms, he kept up a constant stream of jokes to keep everyone's spirits up. "Hey, Captain, do you think combat pay covers welding while being shot at? Because I'm pretty sure this wasn't in my job description." "I'll put in a good word with HR," Minji replied dryly. "Try not to die out there." "Dying would be paperwork," Taeyang said. "And I hate paperwork." When the fleet finally reached the coordinates, they found the Vorgath prime nest. An entire moon converted into a living factory. Bioships grew from its surface like tumors, millions of them in various stages of development. The sight was both magnificent and horrifying. "This is what we came for," Admiral Deho said. "All ships prepare for assault." Then the trap sprang. Dimensional rifts opened around the fleet. Vorgath reinforcements emerged by the thousands. Bioships surrounded them from all directions. The human fleet, 300 strong at the start of the mission, now faced over 15,000 enemies. "Sir, we're cut off," someone reported. "Commander June's supply group can't reach us. Scout ships are being hunted down. We're surrounded," a voice filled the command center. "Broodlord Kaharik, thousands of consciousnesses speaking as one. Deathworlders. You fell for the oldest trap. Predictable. Your aggression makes you easy to manipulate. Now you will be consumed. Your genetics will improve the swarm. Thank you for delivering yourselves." Captain Minji looked at the tactical display. 50 to 1 odds. Maybe worse. They should retreat, fall back, survive to fight another day. But retreating meant the Vorgath kept the nest, kept producing bioships, kept getting stronger. Eventually, they'd overwhelm the Union. Humanity would face the swarm alone. All ships. Minji's voice was ice cold. This is what we trained for. Today we show them why humans don't surrender. All weapons free. Kill everything that moves. The human fleet opened fire. 300 ships against 15,000. It should have been a massacre. It was. Just not the massacre the Vorgath expected. Humans fought with desperate creativity. Ships welded together by debris continued fighting as a single unit. Crews transferred through hull breaches to replace casualties. When weapons overheated, they vented them into space and used backup systems. When shields failed, they used the ship's armor. When armor failed, they rammed. Engineer Taiyang routed power from life support to weapons. We won't need life support if we're dead anyway, he explained calmly while the crew put on emergency suits. Fleet Coordinator Peshk's Union ships fought alongside the humans. They weren't as effective, their weapons weaker, their tactics defensive, but they learned. One Union captain, watching a human destroyer sacrifice itself to take out a Vorgath cluster, made a decision. His ship was critically damaged anyway. Evacuate the crew, he ordered. I'm going to ram. Peshk's color flashed shocked yellow. Captain, that's not our way. It is now, the Union captain replied. The humans taught us something. Sacrifice means something when it saves others. The Union ship's crew evacuated. The AI piloted it into a Vorgath breeding cluster. The explosion destroyed hundreds of bioships. It was the first time in 10,000 years that a Union vessel had been used as a weapon. But the battle was still desperate. For every Vorgath ship destroyed, 3 more took its place. The human fleet was being ground down. Ammunition ran low. Fusion reactors overheated. Casualties mounted. Lieutenant Hyun watched the battle from orbit and made his decision. Admiral, request permission for boarding action against the prime nest. If we can destroy it from inside, we cripple their production. Lieutenant, that's a one-way trip, Daeho said. Drop pods can reach the nest, but extraction under this fire is impossible. I know, sir, Hyun replied calmly. Someone has to. His entire Marine company volunteered. 500 soldiers ready to die so the mission could succeed. Fleet Coordinator Peshk stepped forward. I'll pilot the dropship. You humans have shown us what courage means. Let me learn. The drop sequence was chaos. Pods screamed through point defense fire. Vorgath flyers swarmed them. Half the Marines died before reaching the surface. But 250 made it down, including Lieutenant Hyun. The surface of the prime nest was hell. Living tissue pulsed beneath their feet. Biomechanical constructs emerged from the ground. Vorgath defenders swarmed from every direction. All squads, push for the core, Hyun ordered. We don't stop. We don't slow down. We finish this. They fought through impossible odds. Every meter cost lives. Hyun's sergeant fell protecting a wounded Marine. His best friend died clearing a corridor. The survivors pressed on, driven by duty and desperation. Finally, they reached the core. A massive organic heart-pumping genetic material throughout the nest. This was what created the bioships. This was what had to die. As they planted fusion charges, Hyun found something unexpected. Human captives, prisoners taken from previous battles. The Vorgath had been studying them, learning from them, preparing to create human hybrid warriors. Among the captives, Hyun recognized a face. A young engineer from Europa colony. Someone who had known his brother before he died in the mining accident. They're in our heads, the engineer whispered weakly. They know how you think. They're adapting. They understand us now. Hyun helped the captives to their feet. Then we better move fast. Vorgath forces closed in. Too many, too fast. Hyun knew they wouldn't all make it out. He turned to his remaining Marines. Get the civilians to the extraction point. I'll buy you time. Sir, you can't hold them alone, his corporal protested. I don't have to hold them. Hyun activated the fusion charges. I just have to make sure they don't stop the detonation. 30 seconds, go. The Marines fled with the rescued captives. Hyun stood alone at the core, weapon ready. Vorgath horrors swarmed toward him. He opened fire, dropping them one by one. When his rifle ran empty, he switched to sidearm. When that ran dry, he drew his knife. His last transmission crackled through the comms. Admiral, they know us now, but they still don't understand us. Detonation in 10 seconds. Tell my family static, then light. The prime nest exploded with the force of a small sun. The blast wave destroyed hundreds of nearby bioships. The entire moon cracked apart. its biological infrastructure collapsing. Across 3 star systems, the light of Lieutenant Hyun's sacrifice blazed like a beacon. The human fleet saw it. The Vorgath saw it. The Union saw it, one man,